Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Marlowe, and as Billy said, I'm the President and CEO of Smart Data Strategies, and I want to welcome you as well to our demonstration today. We have several people on the line. Many of you are already Mapper users, and hopefully this will be useful to you, and certainly we welcome those that are seeing Mapper maybe for the first time. Mapper is a completely off-the-shelf solution that was developed 16 years ago. For those of you that have used ESRI for a long time, you'll know that that was back in the old AML days when you had to type something in on the screen to make anything work, or to actually do any kind of editing. It is data model independent, so that means that whatever your current data model is, we can adapt to that, Mapper can adapt to that. It is customizable and configurable, again, for your data set, as well as there may be some very specific things you have in your particular editing situation, like copy parallel or certain things, or copying increment on parcel numbers or things like that that you want that we can configure. We do have the ability to integrate with CAMA, computer-aided mass appraisal systems, depending on what that is. It is a workflow-driven system, which you will see today, and it requires little to no ArcGIS experience. It was created by mappers for mappers. For those of you that don't know, we have for a long time been doing parcel mapping ourselves, from paper maps onto digital configurations. Some of the standard features, the search options, you'll see all of these. There's a step-by-step process for doing splits and joins. You also have the ability to import CAD drawings from multiple types, lots of COGO tools. Everything is really streamlined for reporting, plotting. We also have some overlay capabilities for soils, floodplains, things like that. You'll see the incremental attribution, and then several QC tools as well. It's certainly streamlined for an efficient workflow for parcel editing. We believe that we can help you be more efficient, break through the wall. If you've hit a brick wall and you think you're as efficient as you can be today, hopefully you'll see some tools today that will help you break through that wall. So I will now turn this over to Rob and let him show you a live demonstration. Rob?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. What we'll be showing here is a live version of Mapper 10. This is on top of ArcMap 10.0, and we are also currently working with the beta 10.1. So when that is released later this year, we will be ready for that and have Mapper on 10.1. So what Mapper is actually an extension of ArcMap. So it works with both ArcEditor and ArcInfo. And we've created some tools that are outside of ArcMap, and we've also taken ArcMap and we've tried to kind of simplify it for the purposes of parcel mapping. So we've tried to streamline things. You know, as many of you know, within ArcMap there are thousands and thousands of tools, thousands of toolboxes, and so many different things that you can do, and this software is used in so many different industries that we wanted to create a tool that was specific for our clients, which were doing parcel mapping. So as you can see here, this is the main Mapper toolbar, and I'll just kind of go through this in pieces. This is the data view, so this is what we're looking at now. We can also switch to the layout view for plotting, and we can create custom plotting applications for our clients. And you can just switch back and forth that way. We also have, I'm going to zoom in here, got our standard navigation tools. I'm going to zoom into an area. Select a parcel here really quickly. And we have a record view. So this record view basically ties in. This is another way to view the record. And you can have different functions when you click a parcel in a selection set. And we can also tie this to our document management system, which is currently being developed right now as a web-based document management system so you can tie in deeds and various documents to the actual individual parcels. The next thing we have here is the ability to just quickly pull up the table on each feature class. So while I can still get to that, I can right-click and I can go and I can open the attribute table. We try to minimize clicks with Mapper. I can also toggle on and off my layout view. So what you may have seen there, I'm able to toggle on and off my table of contents. So this just gives me more map view if I need it really quickly. I can do that with just a single click. And then this next section here is just our toolbars, which I'm going to quickly run through. So the first button here is our navigation toolbar. So this is just your basic navigation tools. Just kind of put everything in one toolbar. Got the continuous zoom and pan. We've also put the previous and next extent and created some bookmarks on here as well, and a refresh. That's all really standard stuff. The next thing we have is our selection toolbar. So there are a couple things on here that are a little bit different. We've got several different ways to select. So I can select by a line, and anything that's in my selectable layers is going to select with that line. And speaking of selectable layers, you can see here I'm on my visibility tab in my table of contents. So this shows me all the visible layers, and I can go to the selection and see what I have selectable. Well, I can also pull up my selectable layers in this other box here. So a lot of clients really like this because they're able to toggle their display layers on and off at the same time that they can toggle their selectable layers on and off. And of course, I can clear selection on this list. I can set selection options, new selection set every time I select, or add to current, remove from selection set. I have my select by location and select by attributes options on this selection toolbar. So while you can get to these things various ways within ArcMap, we've tried to place kind of our selection palette here. So we have everything that we need to select parcels. We have a buffer selection right here, so you can enter a buffer distance. And another cool thing that we have on here that we developed is our element queue. So I'm going to do clear that out, select by attributes, and I'm going to select exempt symbols here. I want to select all the churches within the county. Okay. Well, now I've just made that selection set, and I don't have a really good way to queue through that selection set. So what I'm going to do is I can bring up my element queue here. I'm going to select my exempt symbols. Oh. Let me try that selection one more time. Okay, there we go. So this lists out all the schools that I have within the county, and as I click them, it's going to take me to each school. And you can see, I can see the school name here. So if I wanted to go to Maplewood Middle School, all I have to do is click on that, and that's going to zoom me right to it. Okay. So it's just a great way to be able to queue through your actual selection set instead of just having to bring up the layer and choose only the selectable layers and then having to right-click and say zoom to it. This just eliminates a whole lot of clicks and your ability to scroll through and look at the features that you've selected. Okay. And again, I can just clear that selection. So that's, in a nutshell, the selection tool palette there. The next thing we have are our query tools. So we have a customized query, simple search here, and I'm just going to bring that up and put in a parcel number here. Okay, and I've chosen to flash and zoom to this parcel when I run the search. So you can see how quick it zoomed to it and it flashed it. I can also have it select if I want to on this command. And you can see here I can set up different compares. I can have not equal, less than, greater than. So you can basically configure this to any type of simple search that you want. So now I've done that. I've also got just the standard find, identify, so I can identify this information on this parcel here. We've got some measuring tools. So the cool thing about this is if I actually, by default it's in feet. If I wanted it in meters or if I wanted it in miles, I can simply convert that on the fly. And I can do that with polygons, areas, existing polygons, and things like that. I also have a units converter here. So if I wanted to go to acres to square feet, put in 200 acres, it'll give me the square feet of that. So it's really helpful when working on deeds or anything, instead of having to go look up a chart or trying to figure out, you know, you have an old deed that has chains or rods, any number of things, yards even, it'll simply convert that. Make another little selection set here as I show you the next tool. Dock this up here. So those are our query and measurement tools. The next thing we have is our QC toolbar. So this really came out of, as we said, built for mappers, by mappers, and you know, when we map a project, we do a thorough QC to make sure that, you know, everything that we've done is done right. So this allows us to find duplicate attributes where we should have unique attributes. So in this case, I'm going to look at the parcels, and I want to look at the parcel ID because the parcel ID number should be a unique value within my data set. So where this is really good is if I've just put in a new subdivision and I've just digitized 100 new parcels, I can run this tool on any unique attributes that I need to have and see if any of the parcels in my new subdivision don't have unique parcel ID numbers. So when I hit find duplicates here, it found that these are duplicate, so I can see that parcel 617 actually has a parcel ID of parcel 16. So I can see that here. And then, of course, I could go in and edit and modify that parcel ID number. Okay? And we can do the same thing on annotations and find any. This actually finds annotations that are spatially on top of one another. Okay. So now what I'm going to get into, that kind of just gives you a real quick, some of the, being able to toggle on some of the toolbars, being able to toggle your view. And now I'm going to get into what I call the meat and potatoes of Mapper, and that is our workflow managers with the split manager, a join manager, and an import manager. So what this split manager is this is a 4-step process here, and this process is customizable to your specific workflow, but we generally find that following these 4 steps pretty much meets most people's workflow in handling their, maintaining their parcels. So what we have, the first button here is our shape tools. So what our shape tools are going to do, our shape tools are going to allow us to add our new shapes. So this is where we're going to construct our new parcel lines and build our polygons within this tool, okay? And as you can see, as I hit this first button, it's going to automatically start an edit session, and it's automatically going to set my target layer in my edit path so that I'm immediately ready to start adding parcel lines into my data set here. So I've got a deed, and I've read that deed, and I've gotten to this point here in the corner of parcel 20, and I know that this is where I'm going to start from. So I'm going to click my starting point here, and I'm going to open up the traverse, and I'm going to put in my first COGO call that I have. I'm going to enter this in here. Oh, missed a little hyphen there. Apologize for that. There we go. So basically, that's just drawn the first line I have on my COGO. So I've gotten that line in. Well, I realize that I've just drawn a line on top of a line there. So what I want to do is I want to come over here, and I'm going to restart my sketch so that I don't have duplicate lines. So you can see what that's done is that's taken away that line that I just drew, but it's put me in the next position based on the deed and the COGO call. So now I can enter in my next call here. I'm going to go 575 feet across this back line. And I can see, I know the rest of my calls are going to take me around, so I can actually finish this sketch here. And when I close that out, I've got this line, this new back line here on this parcel. So a couple other ways, I'm going to just show you what we can do here, a couple other things we can do to edit these lines. I know that I've got 150-foot lots back here, so I'm just going to, I've got two of them. I'm going to enter in 150 and 150, and that leaves me with 275 left over, so I'm going to hit OK. And when I do that, that's going to proportion my line here and break those at 150 feet. So I can see here now I'm at an endpoint. So I'm going to construct a new line, and I'm just going to go parallel from this line here, and I can snap, and I can find that endpoint there, go parallel, and snap that. And now I've just constructed 3 new parcels. I've built the lines for 3 new parcels. But what I need to do now is construct the actual polygons. So I'm going to select these lines, and I want to build parcel polygons. So when I hit construct there, I now have 3 individual parcel polygons. Okay. So some other things that we have in here, we have the ability to do a 2x extend. So instead of drawing a line and having to run the extend or trim feature, we can do a 2x extend that will bring the lines together and break them at the intersecting points. We can copy parallel within this. So if I select a parcel line, I can do a copy parallel. It'll allow me to widen that either way. We can do move, copy, merge. Basically, we've provided all the tools within this toolbar, everything you would need to add new parcel lines and construct parcel polygons. Anything you would need to do that is within this toolbar. So that's kind of the goal of this toolbar. And that's the first step in the editing process. So now that I've added those lines and created those polygons, clear my selection here, we're going to validate that. I'm going to zoom in here. And we're going to validate what we did against our topology rules. So when I run this topology, it's going to find a couple errors here. So I had extended these lines here without actually breaking them. So for one, and this down here, I have a little dangle, so I can subtract that piece. I can split this at the points here, and I'm actually getting rid of those topology errors. So when I run my topology again, I've got a little thing here with the subdivision I don't have to worry about right now, but this new parcel that I put in, I'm all good. So the second step, I know that once I've put in my my lines, my polygons, and now I've run my topology, I know that my line work and my polygons are correct within my feature class here. So I can zoom out just slightly. And my third step in this whole deal is to, now I need to attribute these polygons. So in my first step, I've got my lines in, I built my polygons, everything is right with that because I know I ran my topology rules against it, so I know that I've got clean data here. So really all I have left is to, let's make these polygons smart and put some attributes to them. By default, they take on the attribute of the parent parcel. So when I look here, it's taken on this parcel 20. It shows that it's over 15 acres, almost 16 acres. Well, we know that's not correct. So we're going to close this out. And we've already got some parcels coming in here. So we're just going to continue with our attributing. And this parcel is going to be 14,005, 006, and 007. Well, this parcel already has an attribute of a parcel number of 14.004. So what we can do is we can actually increment by 1, and all these are going to be in the same block, so I'm going to copy that attribute. So as I hit go here, I can click in my parcel, and I can just continue to click. And now what I can see in my attributes that this is parcel 14007, and the block number was copied over to being 001. So if you see here from the parent parcel, the block, there was no block number. So now I've added these to the block with 001 and modified the parcel ID. Well, the other thing that's incorrect is the acreage. So I can select my 3 new parcels as well as my parent parcel, and I can quickly update the acreage by clicking my calculate acreage. And then when I look at this, I can see that my acreage has been adjusted. 0.544, 0.945. Okay. And we can also kind of work with you. We've done this calculate where it'll calculate other values depending on the client's needs. So some clients, we actually calculate square footage as well, and we have the ability to, with this button, add text attributes to the attribute field as well. And I'll show you how that can come in handy on this next step when we get to the annotation here. So now I've got my, again, just going to reiterate, we put the lines and polygons in the first step. We checked that work in the second step with the topology. The third step, we attributed everything. And now in the fourth step, I'm going to add my. So as I bring up my annotation tools, one cool thing is that here in my target layer list, it's only going to list annotation layers. So I won't have parcel lines and parcel polygons and other things within my target layer list. So again, since we are going to just copy, we want to just use the same numbering here on our parcel numbers. we're just going to increment those. And we want to increment by 0, 0, 0, 1. As I click here, it's going to ask me, I want to make this a parcel number. So I've incremented my parcel numbers there. On here, we can also just, simply add text in a horizontal fashion. We can do it, place it by a, specific line. But my favorite way to add annotation is really to do it just by the already by the attribute. So we've already created these 150-foot backlines, so we know that that attribute is already in there. So I want to add text by attribute. When I do that, I'm going to just choose the shape length here. So as I click, it's just adding that 150-foot. And I can also choose to place it at the selection point. So if I wanted to move it down, have it lower, I can do that. Simply also move this however I wanted it to be placed. So you can do that based on the polygon and place lot numbers and things like that as well. So now we've incremented the annotation. You can do different. You can see there's different tools on here. I can do like a measure. So if I click this line in here, it'll place that annotation based on a measurement. We can flip annotation. Anything you would need to do with annotation is right here within the annotation toolbar. So now that I've added the annotation, put my I know I've gone through these 4 steps. I've added my lines, polygons, checked them against the topology, added the attributes, and that added annotation to my map. Now I'm done. I can click save my edits, and I've just put in 3 new parcels. So I know I kind of talked through all that a lot, so it took longer to talk through it, but really when you're in the workflow of it and going through those 4 steps, it's a really quick process to be able to put those in. And it kind of gives everything at your fingertips, as opposed to going to this toolbar and this toolbar and going all around your screen. You've got everything in one place that you need. So just the same, I've got a join toolbar, and on my joins, I can click. If I wanted to join these 2 parcels here, I can simply merge them together into one. I can then just select the line that makes the 2 parcels up, delete that, and I'm finished. Finished with joining the shapes, and then you'll see the next 3 steps are the same. So I would go through, do the topology, make sure there's nothing left over. I can modify the attributes at that point, and then delete any annotation and change any annotation that I would need to. Then we have our simple tools. So what our simple tools basically put everything into one toolbar. So once you're real familiar with the workflow of things, we've just given you one toolbar that you can do everything in one single toolbar. The next thing I want to show you is our import tool. So what our import tool allows us to do, it's going to allow us to add some CAD data here. So I'm going to add this CAD data, and I'm going to zoom to it. Okay, so I can see I've got some CAD data here. When I turn that off, this is my CAD import. So I've gotten a drawing from an engineering company or from someone, and they've given me this. Luckily, it's geo-referenced. If it's not geo-referenced, we've got a geo-referencing tab here, and I can select that CAD layer, and I can bring it in, and I can geo-reference that. In this case, we've got a geo-reference layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my CAD layer here, and I want everything to be a parcel line in this case. What the cool thing that this does is if your CAD layer has different levels on it, you can choose the levels and choose what those are. So in this case, we're just all parcel lines. If I had these outer right-of-way lines, I could choose those too. The other nice thing is if you did have those outer right-of-way lines, well, in this case, those right-of-ways are already there, so I wouldn't need to import those. So I can add that to my list, and when I process that, I'm going to process it to the parcel lines. When I close that, if I cut my CAD layer off, you can see now I have an entire subdivision of line work. And then it's just the same thing. I can come in here to my shape tools, and I can build all my polygons, and then I can check my topology, attribute the polygons, and then add any annotation I would need. So everything kind of builds off one another. Once you've learned the basic workflow, whether you're doing a split or a join or an import, it all kind of builds on one another. So it's a basic workflow that you can get comfortable with, and really helps makes the whole process more efficient. Okay. So a couple other things before we hit our Q&A session are some reports that we can do in Mapper. So one of these reports is an overlay report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my soils. I've got a soil layer here, and I'm just going to select one parcel here. It's got two different types of soil, and I'm going to go to my overlay, choose my soils, and I'm going to look at the parcel ID, and then I want to look at the type of soil here. And when I calculate that overlay, it's going to show me here that it's picked up 0.01 acres of this OUC, and this ORC is 0.28 acres. So a lot of our clients use soils or different overlays to help value parcels. You can export these results. We have it where some clients are being able to directly export these into a CAMA system. And then we also have the ability to use this tool to where it will actually, this is taking a calculated value and a calculated amount, but we can do that as a percentage of the appraised acreage. So we're able to use the appraised acreage and use that soil as a percentage of the appraised acreage, because that's what's actually taxed upon. Another type of report we have is an orphan report. So the orphan report will allow you to connect to your, we'll just look at the tool setup. What this basically allows you to do is connect to your CAMA system or a database system that you have that has a one-to-one match, or is supposed to have a one-to-one match to your parcels, and it will run a report letting you know which parcels are in the GIS that are not in the CAMA, and vice versa, which parcels are in the CAMA and not in the GIS. And then you can have that list, and you'll be able to go investigate those parcels individually and see, why that may have been missed in the CAMA or on the GIS side. So that's our demo of Mapper there.